Board Member Kelly a few minutes because she was stuck in traffic with the rain, and then we'll begin.
Any bag I have can be on the floor and trampled.
Okay, ready when you are. Yep.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for coming. Today is Tuesday, October 7th, 2025. The time is now 5:03 p.m. and the special meeting of the Boynton Beach Community Redevelopment Agency is now called to order. The scheduled October 7th, 2025 City of Boynton Beach Commission will start at a time not certain but following as soon as thereafter the conclusion of the special CRA board meeting. Let's proceed to the invocation led by Board Member Kelly. By Board Member Hay, and the pledge will be by Board Member Kelly. Sorry, I threw you on a
No
loop there.
worries. Okay.
Let us pray. Father, we thank you once again for another day. We ask that you be in the midst of this meeting, the special meeting. And we thank you for those who have taken time out to come to share with us. We ask you to bless each board member, our staff, and the city of Boynton Beach. We pray, Father, that we will make the right decision that would be pleasing in your sight and in your ears. We ask it all in Jesus' name we pray. Let every heart say amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everybody. Let me turn to our city clerk, Maylee De Jesus, if you could please begin the roll call.
Chair Shelton,
Present.
Vice Chair Hay,
Present.
Board Member Cruz,
Present.
Board Member Turkin,
Present.
Board Member Kelly.
Here.
Chair, you have a quorum.
Thank you. We are now moving on to additions, deletions, corrections to the agenda. Let's begin to my right with Board Member Cruz.
I have no amendments, Mayor. Thank you.
Board Member Hay.
I have none.
Board Member Kelly.
I do not. Thank you,
And
Mayor.
Board Member Turkin.
I'd like to remove 9C. From what I understand, that applicant had withdrew. So I don't see any necessity to have that conversation.
Board Chair, may I weigh in?
Yes.
There's an active contract with the recruiter, so the board, if it please, could still consider whether to extend that contract or terminate that contract at this time.
Okay, perfect, thank you.
If there are no other additions or deletions, do we have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor of passing? All those in favor of
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Moving on, are there any legal updates?
Nothing from legal, thank you.
Thank you. Let's begin informational items and disclosures by board members and CRA staff. We can start with you, Board Member Tarkin.
I have nothing, thank you, Mayor.
Board Member Kelly?
Chair, I do not have anything, thank you.
I do not. Board Member Hay?
No, I do not.
And Board Member Cruz?
I do not since the last meeting, no.
Thank you. Thank you. Let's move on to the next portion of the agenda, which is public comments. The public comment section of the meeting is for the public comment on all items on the agenda or items that are not on the agenda. Each speaker will be given a total of 3 minutes to comment on all items in the agenda. However, the board retains the right to increase or decrease 3-minute limit. Prior to the start of public comment, each public speaker shall be given the same number of minutes unless it becomes necessary to terminate a speaker's comments in order to maintain orderly conduct and proper decorum. Persons making public comment may not assign or donate their public comment time to another individual to allow that other individual additional time. However, any persons requiring assistance will be accommodated as required by the Americans with Disabilities Act. Prior to addressing the board, speakers present at the meeting will go to the podium to make their comments, and speakers participating virtually will unmute their device at the time requested. Speakers may be asked to state their name, address for the record. Any person may provide written comments to the board prior to the meeting. Do we have anyone here for public comment? Anyone?
Nobody's online.
Okay. Public comment is now closed. We will continue to old business. First item for discussion and consideration is the discussion and consideration of the executive director position, which was tabled at the special joint meeting on September 18th, 2025. If we want to discuss this item, we will need to be untabled. Would any of my colleagues like to make the motion?
Motion to remove from the table. Item 9A.
We have a second?
Wait, which one? 9A? Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
All those that say nay?
Aye.
Nay. What did you go?
Nay.
Motion fails 3-2. So there's no agenda to remove it, so we're just going on to 9B. Catherine? Okay. 9B, item 9B is a discussion and consideration of the request for proposals, or RFP, from CRA Executive Director Services. This item allows the CRA Board to score and rank proposals to this RFP by scoring each proposal by using the evaluation criteria in the RFP. Following the evaluation, the CRA Board member may make a motion to extend a contract offered to the highest ranked proposer. The CRA has received and reviewed 2 proposals in response to this RFP, one from Redevelopment Management Associates LLC, and the other from Mark A. Stallworth. The board member will evaluate only those proposals which are deemed to be responsive and responsible proposals. A proposal is deemed responsive if it conforms in all material respects to the requirements set forth in the RFP. A proposer is deemed responsible if it demonstrates that it's capable to fully perform the contract requirements. The purpose of the RFP is to hire a qualified consulting firm to provide executive director services to the CRA for a period of 2 years with the option of 1-year renewal. These services include providing an executive director to serve as a full-time in-house consultant. Based on the information provided by the proposers as summarized in the chart provided to board members, it appears to select one. Both proposers are responsive and responsible. Is this where you pick up, Catherine?
Staff has reviewed
Okay.
and both are responsive and responsible. However, there are slight deviations into the responses that the staff would like you to waive if you do select a proposer tonight.
So just to clarify, I believe that you've been provided with a chart outlining the differences of those. There was one difference that is, that bears explaining, which is that this RFP was issued in solicitation of a firm. And the RFP is stated that way. One of the proposals received otherwise met the criteria as shown on your sheet. However, the entity that submitted is not technically a firm, so the board can choose whether to consider that at this point, a responsive request or a responsive proposal or not. And if they end up selecting the entity that is not technically a firm, then we would just ask for a waiver as part of that, which you may do under the RFP.
So the CRA has the power to waive any requirements of this RFP, including the failure to comply with the requirements that the proposers are responsible. Would anyone like to make a motion to waive any requirements of the RFP?
I think the only thing is the references of past performance. I think you have one of the applicants who have spent quite some time in different municipalities, and you've seen a good product of that work. And so, you know, I think when you look for whether it's a candidate or a firm, you don't like people who jump from place to place to place. So if you have some stability and it doesn't provide the amount of references needed, I think, I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing. And so the reference of past performance, I don't know if we need to waive that, but maybe a little bit more detail on what that entails. Because I did see quite a bit of recommendation letters that maybe were not directly related to some of the municipalities that this firm has performed in, but some key stakeholders within the community, which I think some of those being from Boynton Beach hold a little bit more weight.
Applicant here?
I believe the applicants are in the room.
We do have a representative from RMA here, Chris Brown, but I am not seeing the other representative, Mark Stallworth, at this moment.
That's okay. So we just keep on.
Sorry, I'm not sure how this is supposed to work.
Okay, yeah, I'm new to this process too, so I'm just going through it over here. I'll be looking
Okay,
at you a
so-
lot, Catherine, and being like, okay, what's next?
Absolutely, happy to help. So, Board Member Turkin, is it my understanding that you would like to waive the strict application of the recommendation criteria?
Yeah, I think if you look at the resume, I think that's some proof in the pudding in and of itself. I don't want an applicant to be disqualified because of the scope of the recommendation letter, right? And so I think if you have recommendation letters, great. I just don't want that to be a disqualifier.
Sure, so we can do this one of two ways. We can make a motion to waive that criteria right now, or you all can have the full discussion at this point, and then based on your decision, the motion will incorporate any waivers as may be necessary, and it is your preference.
Like the
I
latter?
I would like to discuss it.
Yeah, sure.
So could we have the applicant come in? Is this the right time or for questions?
When is the time for the one applicant that's here to come down, Catherine?
So this can be run at your discretion, Board Chair, so let me walk through a couple of possibilities here. If we're going to handle all of the waivers at the end, you all may choose to have presentations at this point, or you may choose not to have presentations. That's up to you. If you elect to hear presentations, we would ask the proposers there's only one proposer here, so it's not really necessary to go through the process of asking them to leave. However, if we see, we'll just ask Mr. Tack to keep an eye out if the other proposer comes in, and we can handle that situation accordingly. Then you all will move through the evaluation process. You all have been provided with a score sheet. We will score and by we, what I mean is you all, will score the applicant on each of the criteria, and then you can elect to have Tim or I or the board chair, whoever you like, to go through the process of totaling those up. We'll have a discussion on those. You all are entitled to change it. Now, I do need to say who ranked as what. In Florida, there are no there's no blind ballots, there's no anonymous voting. The public is entitled to see what you write and how you score. So you all can announce that yourselves, or you can have it announced by whoever it is that is charged with sort of tallying the count, and then that will give you your winner.
Okay,
So why don't we start with presentations?
Yeah.
Would you all like to see presentations or no?
please, yes.
Okay, who would you?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, I saw, I think 4 nodding heads anyway. So who, board chair, it's up to you. You may call who you would like to come present.
Well, we only have one of the applicants here, so would the representative from RMA please come to the podium or come down with your presentation?
Catherine, can I ask you a technical question while he's coming up? With regard to any draft conditions or terms of the contract, is that negotiable after the fact, or is it as it stands, as it was submitted in the RFP?
The RFP form contained a contract that was explicitly marked as a draft and asked the applicants not to sign in order to give you all the ability to negotiate. It cannot substantially deviate from what was in there, but there may be some honing around the edges that can be done. It's to conform what was submitted by the applicant or any other agreement that's come to tonight that's, again, within the parameters of the RFP.
Great, thank you.
Sir, you have the floor.
I did send, and I have a thumb drive, I have a PowerPoint show I prepared for this evening,
Okay.
if you'd like to see it.
We have someone,
I think it is up.
That's it, okay. Yeah, that's fine. Which one to move forward? Okay. So I want to tell you, I have about 20 or 30 slides, so I'll try to keep this down to 20 minutes because I know you have a city commission meeting following this meeting. So just a little bit about my background. I'm a resident of Delray. I live very close to City Hall. I live about 15 minutes away from City Hall. And so I've been a CRA director in 2 cities. That was Delray Beach. I started that in 1991 and ended in 2001. That was for 10 years. And then I was a CRA director in Pompano Beach, and that was for almost 10 years as well. I retained the relationship with Pompano Beach, and now we're simply just consultants to Pompano Beach. We've done a lot of work for other CRAs around the state. I have a list of those on this slide. I won't read every one of them, but my background is that after I got out of grad school, I went to University of Pennsylvania, got a Master's of Architecture, a Master's of City Planning. Then I went 1 year to Wharton Business School, and then my father said, when are you going to go to work? So I didn't go to the second year of the business school. That was the biggest mistake I ever made. But you know, fathers are fathers. So in any case, I've spent about 25 years in the real estate industry, and then I applied for a job in Delray as the CRA director. The criteria was you had to come from the real estate industry, which was an unusual criteria, but I got the job, and it was unanimous by the board of directors. So my proposal is that I would come on board as the CRA director. I will look for your permanent as a temporary CRA director. I do that for 2 reasons. One is I really want to get to know the staff, and I want to get to know the city better than I know now. There's nothing better than to serve as a director than being the director. I do know quite a few people across the state and I've already called a few, and I might have some interested parties coming in as executive director. But if I find you a permanent executive director, I will bring them for interview for you before this board for approval. So one of the things that we believe in at our company is we believe in training and we believe in education. So it's an ongoing process on a daily basis, and I give some of the training as well. So our firm has about 15 employees. We have 2 or 3 contract employees as well. And we've been in this business since 2009. And so we're very real estate oriented as a firm. I'll just continue the slides and give you some more background. One of the things I have a strong belief in is I'll just pause for a minute. One of the things I have a strong belief in as a CRA director is having a strong relationship with the city manager. When I was this Delray Beach executive director, I had a very strong relationship with the city manager, Dave Harden. And we did things together. When I was short of money, I used to borrow money from the city. And then when he needed something from me, I used to help him. In the case of Pompano Beach, when I was the CRA director there, I had a very strong relationship with two of the city managers, and one of them still there, and that was Dennis Beach and Greg Harrison. Greg Harrison was one that gave me a letter of recommendation that is in your proposal. So I want to continue that relationship. And one of the things I did before I responded to this RFP was to meet Dan Duggar, and we got along instantly. And so I look forward to having a partnership with Dan to make this a real partnership. I think that there's a strength in partnerships between CRA directors and city managers. So I'd like to continue that because I've done it before. So I'm going to tell you something about some of my skills. Because I come from the real estate industry initially, land acquisition is a big skill of mine. The project on the left was a land acquisition I did both as the CRA director for Pompano. It was a 5-piece land acquisition. One of them was a lease from the FEC. That took me almost 3 years to get the lease from the FEC. It was not an easy assignment. And then after I left the directorship of the CRA in Pompano, they then called me back and said, "Would you please buy one more property because you know the people who own the property," and we did. So what's being proposed on the left slide is a mixed-use project. This is on property owned by the CRA. It's a 500-space garage and a multifamily building on top of it. The building on the right was one that I acquired. The property I acquired while I was the CRA director in Delray was 13 properties. It took me 2 years to buy the 13 properties. And we put it out to RFP in the year 2000, and a local developer won the RFP. That was New Urban Communities. They did a magnificent job, and so that's a picture of the one on the right. One of the other things that I feel strongly about is historic preservation, and the historic preservation basis is founded on two major things. I think it's important to save the history of a community, and that would also be for Boynton Beach, as well as some of the other communities I've saved properties on. And the other thing is that it makes good economic development sense to save your historic buildings, because when consumers come to visit your city and you have historic buildings, it becomes very much of an important tourist attraction. This is a property that our CRA bought in Delray Beach. It's the Solomon Spady home. I personally was in charge of that project, and it's a magnificent museum. It's a Black History Museum. One of the other things that I've had a lot of experience in, and it really comes first from my real estate background, is infrastructure. So the slide on the left is Atlantic Avenue. When I got to Delray, we started beautifying Atlantic Avenue. This road was taken away from DOT. It was decertified. It was the most important decision that Delray ever made about Atlantic Avenue. And then we underground all the electric, and we did a magnificent sidewalk. The street on the right is Pompano Beach Boulevard. I was the CRA director at the time when we did this, and it is a beautiful promenade along the Atlantic Ocean. The other part of my interest, as I said, I come from the real estate industry a lot of my career. I have an expertise in housing. The building on the left was a project when I was the CRA director in Pompano. It was a tax credit housing project, and it was very successful, and we put retail on the bottom floor, and those are the offices of the CRA today, on the bottom floor and the slide on the left. The slide in the middle on the left is a project that is in Pompano Beach, and in Broward County, you're required to produce 15% of your housing in workforce housing. So I went to the developer whom I know, and I said, I don't want you to buy out your obligation of housing. I want you to build the housing. So we at the CRA gave him a $7.5 million TIF grant so that he could realize the gap between the affordable housing. So he built that building is finished, and he built 45 units. It took about 30 days to rent those 45 units. The project on the right with the red is the project the land I assembled. It's a project in Delray. It's a market rate housing. It's a magnificent project. It's called Worthing Place. And the project on the right, I assembled the property for that on Delray on 2nd Avenue, and that was then bought. I helped the developer buy that, and then he built this magnificent building on 2nd Avenue. And 2nd Avenue, as you know, in Delray is the same as Seacrest, so they're connected. Retail recruitment is something I learned a long time ago. I'm good at it. When I went to Delray, I measured the amount of square footage on the ground floor in Delray. In 1990, there was 1 million square feet. 500,000 of that square feet was vacant. It took me 10 years to lease all that space. and I was involved in almost every transaction. And these were a few of the restaurants that I attracted. 32 East, which now today, 32 East sold their restaurant to City, the conglomerate in West Palm Beach. And is now Elisabetta's. The project on the right is a project that our firm was hired by the city of Pompano Beach to manage. It's 8 acres on the Atlantic Ocean, and so we managed that. We selected a developer, and this is one of the results of that development. It's a magnificent project, and this is the Beach House. It's a restaurateur from Cincinnati, Ohio, and they have a magnificent portfolio. Now, the building on the right I'm very proud of. That's on MLK in Pompano Beach. I wanted to sort of try to rebuild the black community's retail, which they lost most of it. So we built a retail facility of about 4,000 square feet. We attracted 2 restaurants in this slide on the right, and we did a complete build out of the interior because small business people can't afford to open a restaurant and pay the fare what it takes to do the build out for a kitchen. One of the things I did in Delray, which was interesting, I learned it from, I used to work for a developer who owned malls. And in malls, they use a system of marketing in a mall called Central Marketing Management. There's a book that ULI has produced on this, and when I went to Delray, I got the book. So we did a partnership with the CRA and the city and the Chamber of Commerce did a partnership, and we created a downtown marketing management company. And these are pictures of one of our director's ideas, and that is dinner on the avenue. So this is a lot of fun, and it's still going on, I think. So one other thing this was another thing I wanted to do for MLK is take the central marketing management in Pompano Beach and do the same as well. I've built parking garages. I just want to tell you that the building on the left, our firm is the pier garage that was built on Pompano Beach Boulevard in Pompano Beach. Our firm was hired to be the project manager for this garage, 625 public spaces. And we put 100 spaces on the ground floor for valet parking because we had, at the time, we had 4 restaurants coming in on the Atlantic Ocean, so we had to get ready to valet their customers into this garage. The project on the right is the assemblage I did for the CRA in Pompano Beach, and this is a proposal for a garage on that site, which the CRA hired our firm to do a proposal for the garage so that they could get an idea of what could happen. This is a 500 space garage with a multifamily apartment on top of it.
I apologize for interrupting. I'm going to jump in. I believe the other
Are
candidate
you running
has.
out of time?
No, sir, but the other candidate has arrived, so I would just like to pause to ask Mr. Stallworth to make some adjustments to the format so that we can have the meeting closed to the different candidates.
The other candidate
The other
has entered
candidate
the
has
room during your
arrived, and so
presentation.
I'm going
Okay,
to
well,
pause the meeting for a moment.
What I can do
momentarily.
is I can just sort of hurry up.
Well,
Well-
he has to leave the room.
It's,
Yeah, correct?
I'm going to pause. If you would like to have the other candidate leave
I
the
don't mind
room,
if the candidate stays here.
it's the board's choice.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to stay, I don't mind if he stays either.
Wouldn't mind to pick it up, though,
Yeah.
Chris, if you don't
Just
mind.
start wrapping it up, Chris.
Wrap it, pick it up, okay?
Yeah,
Okay.
and Mr.
Appreciate it.
All
Stallworth,
right,
please, you
Commissioner,
can
I
stay in
will.
the room.
Okay, I'll
We
pick
agree
it
all
up.
that?
So
If you
one of
want
the.
to, you can stay in. If not, okay.
The project,
Okay.
the slide, I'm going to pick it up. The slide on the right was Federal Highway in Delray Beach. I went to DOT and said, let's D-lane Delray, let's D-lane a 6-lane highway, and they agreed to it. And then I went and got a DOT grant of $7 million to do this, and that's what happened on this one. Why I like it is because, and why I'm showing it, because I want to work on Boynton Beach Boulevard. It's a very important corridor street. It's even more important than Federal Highway in my mind because the traffic coming off of 95 is enormous. I think that the MLK and the Black community is a first priority in my book. And if you look at the Black community in Delray Beach, you'll see my fingerprints all over it. Thank you very much. I just want to tell you that this is some of my beginnings in the real estate industry. The building on the left was one that I was the developer of with 2 other partners, and the one in the center was one in Gainesville. And the project on the right is my first project in Delray. When I was the CRA director, that was a Chevron gas station, and now it's a barbecue restaurant. So back to historic preservation, the building on the left, our firm remodeled. We used to have a construction arm to our firm. We lost it. We gave it up. And the building in the center was a renovation of a building that the CRA bought. It's an art gallery downstairs, and upstairs are 13 studios for artists, and there's an example of one of the artists there. I did this because I went to art school at Yale, and I wanted to do this and get this done. And I thought about this for 30 years, and I finally got to do it. So street beautification is very important. We'll go through this any longer, but the street on the left is Northeast 2nd Avenue. I created a main street in Delray, which was magnificently successful, and it's a multi-million-dollar street today with thriving restaurants. I'm a strong believer, and I think you have a great program in Boynton Beach for this, but building renovation is important. When I got to Delray, this was Sal's Sporting Goods, and that's what it looked like. When I left, that's what it looked like. So retail recruitment, I just take one accolade, and that is our firm was hired by Oakland Park to do something about their downtown. It's a very small downtown. We attracted Funky Buddha. We found the brothers, and we got them into this warehouse. They started out at 18,000 square feet, and they now have a 120,000 square foot brewery in Oakland Park. So this was the beginnings of in Delray. This was the picture in 1990, and this is the picture today. It's a big change. I believe in street beautification because it's your front door. You must have beautiful streets that your customers arrive to. And I'm not an expert in hotel recruitment, but I had to become one. The hotelier on the left, I met in Fort Myers. I brought him to Pompano Beach, and they built a Hilton. The one on the right, the CRA, is Coulter. Coulter is a big hotelier group, and the CRA, after I left the CRA in Delray, they hired me to negotiate with Coulter on this hotel. This is a Hyatt place, and and then Coulter finally moved their offices out of West Palm, and they're in Delray. So these are some garages that I've been involved in, and the one on the right is one it went out to bid recently. This is a 718 garage. The reason we need much parking in Pompano Beach is that it's a very popular place to be, and so this garage is about ready to go under construction. That's some of my handiwork. So just some endless. I have a slide of endless ideas. So the slide on the left is I want to do an entry feature coming off of 95 into Pompano Beach, into Boynton Beach on Boynton Beach Boulevard, and the day shot would be the one on the left. The one next to it is a night shot. And then I've always had an idea about garages because I've been involved with so many garages. I wanted to do a garage that you could pay to get in, drive to the roof, and go see a movie in your car. And the picture on the far right is the top of a garage that I'm working on now, in which, this happens to be in Deerfield, but which is you take the retailers and they lease from the city the public garage, and people can have parties on the garage. Thank you very much, and I look forward to talking to you and answer any questions.
Thank you so much. Do we go ask Mr. Stahl?
Yes.
Okay,
Is
and
there,
then,
sorry, Madam Chair.
ahead.
Is there an opportunity, since he just presented, to ask some questions and then with the next applicant to ask questions after his presentation?
Yes, you may ask questions.
Because by the time the other one presents,
Right.
Mr. Brown, can you come back up? We might have some questions for you before we switch to
thank
the
you.
second presentation.
Thank you very much.
Go ahead, Board Member Cruz.
Thank you, Mr. Brown, for your presentation.
Thank you, Commissioner
I
Cruz.
think those last ideas are very innovative. I like them.
Thank you.
I like the fact that you've worked with hotels before. I think that's a positive. There's definitely interest in that in Boynton Beach. I do have a few questions that I'd like to ask, and also some proposals for the contract if we decide to move forward with it. My first question is, what is your role with other CRAs? Does RMA provide executive director services for any of your other clients at this time?
We have a contract with the city of West Palm, and we provide 6 employees that are located inside City Hall. We used to provide all of them, but then there was a political change after Jerry Moyo left. Then there was a political change, and they wanted to have their own CRA director. So we don't provide that anymore. So that's West Palm Beach. We also have a contract with Pompano Beach, but we're not directors. They actually took somebody who worked for us and they became the director. So, but we're consultants to both the city and the CRA in Pompano Beach.
Okay.
We do have a contract with the city of North Miami Beach, but we provide one person there.
So at this time, you're not providing executive director services at any of your clients? I just want to make sure I'm understanding correctly. At this time,
West Palm is
RMA is not providing executive director services for any of your clients?
No, not at this point. Okay, I'm sorry, yeah.
But you provide other services, like
Yeah,
consultant?
yeah.
Okay. Thank you. My second question is, let me go back to the page on the proposal where we talk about the org chart. I know your proposal stated that you're not interested in removing any of our CRA staff.
No.
I wanted to kind of follow up on that, and if I can get to the correct page. So looking at the org chart, We do have a business development promotions manager, which I do see in this organizational chart. However, there's one position that we do have currently at the CRA, which is the business development coordinator, and I don't see that in the organizational chart.
That was a mistake. I had somebody in my office do that chart,
Okay.
and they missed that person, so I apologize.
So I just want, for the sake of protecting our staff, I just wanted to get it clear on the record.
Yeah.
If we decide to move forward with RMA is going to continue to have all the current positions,
Yes.
including, but not limited to, the business development
Yeah.
coordinator.
And I apologize for that.
So that's a yes.
I saw that after I submitted the RFP.
All right, thank you very much. All right, and then my next question is 3, legal. I did have some questions, and because we've never gone with a firm for the time that I have been here, I want to understand it better. So I did ask some questions to our legal advisor and our attorney, and I wanted to have kind of 3 proposals for potential amendments to the contract for certain requirements that I would like to see if we can get consensus from the board, but you articulate them better. So I wanted to see if you can kind of translate what we talked about earlier.
Sure. So Board Member Cruz called, I'm just going to wait for the door to shut. Thank you. Okay, so Board Member Cruz called me today. As you all know, the RFP, we must be confined to the RFP, but she had some questions regarding what could be included in the contract. I think these proposals fit within the face of the RFP, so she asked me to be available to explain them to the board. The first one was that she wondered if RMA would be comfortable having the invoices directly approved by the board as part of the monthly packet. Part of the reason for that is the RMA would oversee the staff, and so if the staff is required to approve their boss's invoices, that's just a little bit of a different structure. So that was one question for the board's consideration, as well as Mr. Brown's. Yes.
So as we're talking about this, that's one thing that I was thinking that, to be fiscally responsible, if we're going to move forward with RMA, it would be, I think, prudent to allow the board, which is who the executive director will be reporting to be able to approve the invoices that are there for RMA.
My worry with that is, I feel like this is kind of similar to the conversation like the city manager authority with expenditures, that could grind operations to a halt if we have to wait every single month to approve a single invoice. Is that how I'm understanding this?
I believe, and I don't intend to put words in your mouth, so please correct me if I'm wrong. From our conversation, what I understood was that Board Chair Cruz, right now, so for example, legal invoices, I have a budget item. Tim does not report to me, so Tim reviews my invoices. I have no ability to fire Tim, so it's slightly different. She's saying for a monthly invoice from RMA, her proposal would be to put that before the board for approval, because that way the person or the group reviewing the invoice is not subject to termination by the person submitting the invoices.
It provides more
So I
transparency.
think one thing to think about with that is, in this presentation, you have the city manager as the contract administrator. So I don't know if that's an option also. I understand your sentiment, and I can definitely appreciate where you're coming from. My concern is that what I don't want to have happen is we obstruct ourselves and create unnecessary obstacles to get anything done by waiting a month. God forbid we don't have quorum, then you're at 2 months. And I know the chair can only call a special meeting for certain things that are urgent, and I don't think invoices fall under that scope. So I definitely admire where you're coming from. However, at this time, I don't think that's an operationally good choice. I am open to other avenues to where, maybe it's Catherine, maybe it's the contract administrator. I understand where you're coming from, for sure. I just think operationally it doesn't make sense to.
Have somebody outside, so.
Yeah, so maybe
Yeah.
it's the contract administrator, right? And then that way it doesn't wait on this body every month.
So to be clear, the CRA does not operate such that any contract administrator is outside the staff of the CRA. So regardless of the proposal, that power structure is not currently available to the CRA.
So let's hold on that.
But-
I have 3 things, so thank you so much for explaining.
Sure. Okay, the second question was in terms of funding. There's a funding proposal that's been included with this proposal. Board Chair Cruz was wondering whether we could require that any payment beyond that contract amount be approved by the board. So it's a similar question
Yep.
related to
So-
fiscal responsibility.
Thank you, Catherine. So the reason why I was thinking about that is because if we decide to move forward with RMA, and we go in that direction, then we're gonna do something that's been unprecedented. I would like to, and that's why I called Catherine, because I wanted to understand more of how that would work, because I'm used to just dealing with an employee, a staff member, right? So now that we're going with a firm, there's a lot of questions as to how will it work? What kind of powers and authorities would this firm have? You know, just to make sure that we still have reasonable transparency, reasonable checks and balances. So with that being said, obviously, based on the knowledge from, the past, having a staff member as an executive director costs a lot less money than it does to have a consultant do the work. However, we haven't been able to find somebody in a very long time, almost 2 years. So if we were to decide to move in that direction, my concern is capping fees. My concern is fiscal responsibility. My concern is how far are we gonna go with hourly rates? Because I did look at the hourly rates, and they're in the hundreds of dollars per hour for each staff member. So my fear is that we could have an amount, geez, so loud. We could have an amount budgeted, let's say $400,000, right? But then very quickly, with hourly charges, that could significantly elevate. So, and I did see like project proposals and things of that nature, but I want to make sure that we can be fiscally responsible and make sure that we're not going overboard with what we're spending. We would have been spending with an executive director, again, a full staff member. Going with a firm in that way opens the opportunity for endless hourly rates. And I'm very concerned with that on a fiscal side.
So just so I understand so you're saying that if, let's say, for example, let's say RMA, if they want or feel there's a need for extra assistance that's on that price sheet, there's lots of price sheets, then you just want him or whoever to come to us and say, I want to hire a architect for this project, or a electrical engineer to give us a proposal on Magnuson House or something.
Yeah.
You don't want them, you want us to have that oversight, is what
Yes.
you're asking for? Okay.
And I think what I saw in the proposal was often related to projects, like, working on the sports complex and working on, multiple different projects. So what I want to do is definitely like have somebody outside the firm, like, approve the invoices, because it provides some level of transparency. And then in addition to that, as we're looking at, the $400,000 base, if there's anything additional that maybe we are interested in having, or they're proposing that we might be interested in having or utilizing for a project, for that to come back to the board so that the board can approve or not approve that at the time.
I think that happens, Tim, normally anyway, especially like if we're getting a consultant to review, let's say, a TIF request or.
We would still have to
Typically,
abide by the city's
right.
procurement policy the best we could.
Right.
The executive director services that I think you were looking at, those would be additional services. If the CRA board or the city elected, that would be a separate agreement or contract. However, I don't believe there's anything within our agreement right now that would allow them to move forward with additional hourly billing unless it was approved by the board.
Okay.
You can correct me if I'm wrong in that statement.
No, I know the hourly rates seem high, but that's only because you asked for our hourly rates. And actually, my proposal says that, and we have like an urban designer that does work for us. And I want to hire him I want to get him to do when you get good ideas, you want to draw them up and bring them to you to show you what they look like. Because you cannot, there's nothing better than a picture to show what we want to do as for the CRA. So I thought maybe the contract administrator concept would be good. We did it in Pompano. We have a contract administrator in Pompano. So and they had to approve. But and if you could get, Ms. Rossbell, you could get the approval to use the city manager as a contract administrator up to a certain amount, and then come to the board after that amount, that would be helpful. That was kind of the thought I had.
Would that be another position, Kathy, that CRA would have to?
No,
would,
and currently
right?
you do
So I
have
could-
your, apologize, please, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Oh, you do have members of your CRA staff that act as contract administrators, that it's just, we don't have there's not a separate person who is designated as a contract administrator. Sometimes Teresa Utterbach is designated as your contract administrator, sometimes Bonnie Nicklin is, sometimes Tim is, it depends on the area and the project. So you do have acting contract administrators. The CRA we could certainly set up an interlocal agreement with the city to have someone else review the invoices if the city was open to that. I feel confident, since you're the city, that you could make that happen. So that kind of structure is certainly available, and all of this can be worked out and brought back with proposals as well. So we would have time to vet that with the city.
That I could go along with, because not that I don't trust you, but I know them, and it has worked in the past, so.
I don't want the contract administrator to be an employee of mine.
Right.
Okay,
Right.
that's not going to work. The reason why I chose Dan Duggar, number one, I trust Dan Duggar. He's got a good reputation, and we get along. And I would have him approve anything over below a certain amount, and then over that amount, and we can put that in our contract. Over that amount, I'll come to you as a board to get your approval. Okay? But
Are there any other questions? Because I know we got a crowd waiting out for us.
Yeah, we do.
And I would
Yes.
like to
so
have the other applicant
Just
come
wanted to get a
down.
consensus on whether the board agrees with those recommendations.
I think with whoever we move forward with, we can open it up in negotiations as we move forward.
And have the accountability you're comfortable with.
Okay.
I agree with you there.
Thank you. And then the last point was,
Apologies, my microphone was off. Board Member Cruz also asked about kind of a clause to put into the contract that related to keeping the best interest of the CRA first. RMA represents multiple organizations, and so just kind of prioritizing the CRA as
Yes.
including that as a contract clause. So if that
so
would
for
be
example,
acceptable
when
to,
you work for a company,
Yeah.
sometimes you sign like a non-competing clause. So for example, if RMA was representing the Boynton Beach CRA, RMA has intimate knowledge of, properties that we're looking at, properties that we might be interested in. What I wanted to have for the sense of, in a way, it's not a non-competing clause, but to not have RMA purchase property that the CRA is interested in purchasing, so it doesn't create that conflict or that increase in cost for
Yeah,
property.
that's fair.
So like a confidentiality.
Right.
Yeah,
well, confidentiality is not quite applicable, right? Because we're
Right.
a government organization, but
Yeah.
legal term.
a sort of, it would be equivalent in the legal field to like a first priority client,
Right.
like
Right.
that type of situation. Would something like a clause like that in a contract be acceptable to you?
yeah, we're starting to negotiate the contract now.
Correct, and we're going to ask these questions of the other candidate as well, and we're not going to get that far in. I think the question is whether that would be
no,
acceptable.
I'm not going to buy any property in Boynton Beach unless my daughter buys a house in Boynton Beach. So do I need to, and I don't need to come before this board to have my daughter buy a house. But I'd like, you can put whatever conflict of interest clause, I'll have to read it.
Of course, and this is
Yeah.
not this is not obviously the full contract discussion.
Yeah.
It was just a
No,
question
when I
related
work
to.
for a client, that client is, I protect that client to the ultimate.
Thank you.
And that means Boynton Beach, CRA, and Boynton Beach.
Thank you. And then the last thing, kind of to be consistent with the way that the city functions. At the city, obviously, we have the city manager, and then we have the well, at the point that the ordinance or the charter was created, it was, the commission would appoint a city manager, and then the commission would confirm or vote to confirm an assistant city manager. In the same consistent way, I would like to propose that we have the same thing with RMA which we currently have. You did put that in your RFP to confirm the executive director, but I also wanted to have the CRA confirm the way that we do the ACM to confirm the deputy or, the deputy director for the CRA as well, in the way that we do with the city. We already do that in the city. We have the city manager, and then we have the assistant city manager who is confirmed by the city commission with a vote. And it's in the charter. So in the same way, I was thinking it would make sense to be consistent with the city
Was
as
that
we're working
not how,
together.
Tim, is that not how it's, I mean, how were you confirmed when you started as the
I was hired by the executive
assistant
director and
Hired.
hired in as staff.
Right, but if we don't have it in our, I mean, if it's in the charter doesn't track to the CRA, so how would that?
It's not one-to-one. You as the board don't have control over staffing unless there are specific circumstances that grant it to you. So if that were put into, I would need a minute to figure out what the correct structure for that would be and whether that would be part of his contract in terms of hiring or whether we would need to make a CRA policy on that. But that could be effectuated if it were the board's desire.
Yeah, I wanted to propose that to be consistent with the way that we kind of do things in the city, to do that same thing in the CRA for the deputy.
Okay,
That's
so
something that has to be
I
discussed
would like
now as
to,
part of this contract?
I have a lot of
That seems like
questions about that,
something-
but-
Yeah.
okay, so, and just in terms of confining that, is this a question to the proposer as to whether they're comfortable with some
Yes.
oversight?
Yes.
Or is
It was
this,
for the board as well for consensus, yes. On
Okay.
both, yeah.
I'd say we're trying to, so.
So yeah, as the proposer first, and then we can come back to the board and kind of see.
Okay, we don't need to finalize all of the terms of the contract, but just in terms of, I do not mean to put words into your mouth. I am attempting to translate the situation. So please correct me if this is wrong. I believe what you're asking is whether the candidate would accept some level of oversight for one position in their
Yes.
hiring processes.
Correct, yes.
Okay.
Well, you're going to have to, listen, negotiating verbally like this is very difficult. I have to see things in writing.
Yes, sir.
It will come in writing.
Okay, fine. Well, I'll
Okay.
look at it and I'll let you, if it's reasonable, then I'll accept it.
Perfect. Thank
And
you.
I'd just like to make an announcement that the CRA meeting is running over. Our city council meeting was to start at 6, but that will be delayed, so I do apologize. Okay.
So I wanted to see if we have consensus on that.
No.
Don't have, no.
You don't, at least
So
not for
I'm gonna
me.
need
Because I have
to
too
look
many
at them, I need to
questions.
talk
Look
to
at other
Catherine, there's,
comparisons.
here, I can talk about the little stuff like price sheets and things like that, but I gotta talk to Catherine and talk about what that means, so I'm not comfortable.
All right, thank you.
Okay. Now we can move on to the next candidate,
Mr. Stallworth.
Mr. Stoll.
Thank you.
Any further questions?
No.
No.
No, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, sir. Come on down. Welcome.
Either
Whichever
one.
one you want. So if you want to go ahead and get started with
Okay.
your presentation.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, Chair Shelton, Vice Chair Hay, Board Member Kelly, Board Member Cruz, and Board Member Turkin. My name is Mark Stallworth. I'm honored here to be a candidate for the Executive Director Services position here at the City of Boynton Beach. And for more than a decade, I've dedicated my career to community revitalization, affordable housing, and economic development, with a strong focus on empowering residents and restoring communities through strategic redevelopment. It's a little bit about myself. I'm born and raised in Miami, Florida. Attended school at Florida A&M University. After graduating from Florida A&M, sold paint with the Sherwin-Williams Company for about a year in South Georgia or North Florida. moved back down here to South Florida, where I worked in the City of Miami District 5 office as a community liaison. So I have gained a lot of experience working with people. My educational background is in sociology, so I understand individuals and institutions within society.